Mm. That's a different kind of groove, Paul.
Y'all know we don't own the rights to none of this music here. So I gotta put that out there. The copyrights. I had to put it out there smooth for the lady.
All right.
Like the quiet storm. I said, what's going on?
I'm telling you. You know, they were telling a story back then.
Yeah, see, that's what we're gonna tell a story tonight, everybody. With the eyes wide open. All right, that's all y'all get. Y'all
don't get no more than that. Okay, next week I choose the song selection. Yes. We want to welcome you to season 2 of Vulnerable Voices. This week we're talking about Do You Boo, because we want to really reiterate the importance of self-care, financial care, social, emotional health, and we have 2 experts here to guide our discussion. Again, remember to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe to our YouTube channel, Vulnerable Voices, where you're always going to hear real talk from real leaders having real conversations. Every week I bring you an intro about just something that's heavy on my heart. And so today I just want to talk about being great. You know, there's an old saying, especially if you were ever played sports, you've heard good, better, best. Never let it rest till your good is better and your better is best. Usually when I end a text message to a person, I always say, be great. Because I want to leave them with something to inspire, encourage, and motivate them to put their best foot forward every day. And so when I talk about being great, because in this crisis, in this pandemic, and all the different situations that we all seem to face, but particularly Black people right now, you all, we must be great. And greatness really is whatever God has put on your heart to execute. You just do what he tells you to do, and greatness will elude from that. He gives you what you need. And so I'm just asking everyone to never, ever settle for less than being great. And great is not being perfect, but great is truly understanding your gifts and how they can be a blessing to other people. So I choose to be great. The people on this podcast choose to be great. And we're encouraging each of you listening tonight to please be great. And with that, I will turn it over to our special guest, and I will allow them to introduce themselves. First up, my friend from the South, Miss Stephanie Young.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. It actually means a lot to me to be able to talk on this platform on issues that affect people. It affects us, everybody. My name is Stephanie Young. My hometown is Birmingham, Alabama. I know you can hear the twang. It's okay. I've been here for over 25 years, but for some reason or other, the voice is still here. I want to get with the audience on how to hold your finances to keep you well, to keep you in a good place, and also to keep you to the understanding that, hey, I don't have to spend every dime I make. And do I really need those new pair of shoes when I have 20 pair in the closet? Or do I pay rent? Or do I pay rent, or do I pay my car note? We're going to get you to a stability point where when you can save your money and not spend it frivolously, and then be able to help someone else in the process. So thank you for the opportunity. I appreciate it, and I'm excited.
All right. Well, our other guest, we have Miss Ednisha Salisbury, and I'm going to let her do the justice of telling us all about herself. Go ahead, Miss Salisbury.
Well, thank you guys for having me on. I've worked with Paul before, and they were some really great experiences. So thank you for calling me and asking me to be on, Paul. So my name is Ednisha Salisbury. I am a licensed clinical social worker, basically a therapist in New York City. So I'm at an all-female group practice in New York City. I predominantly see people of color. And so I've been working hard. So basically, since this pandemic has started, people of color, we've just been in crisis, right? So it's either the social isolation, which has been really hard. A lot of us love to fellowship. We miss our brunches. We just miss time with each other that we haven't been able to have. Dealing with all of the racial injustice, just helping people normalize just symptoms of PTSD. I'm gonna just be real. Like, people are really dealing with that on a day-to-day basis. Not knowing how to show up every day for these Zoom calls, right? While everybody else is smiling, you could have been crying right before you got on. And we've been also disproportionately impacted by COVID. So I'm dealing with people and loss. I mean, we're grieving a loss of normalcy. We're grieving a loss of people. We're grieving a loss of certainty because we just don't know what's next. So that's what I do most of my day. I'm on session with people. I also have a podcast called Be Real, and so I do that every Friday. And I've also started a business called Black Women Be Whole, where I really focus on the emotional and mental health of Black women. That is my focus. I love Black people. I decided to be a therapist to help my people, and so that's why I do this. So I'm happy to be here to talk about self-care, because self-care is just one of those things where it's not selfish to take care of yourself. I'm not talking about the fact that you can't take care of other people, but you do have to focus on you and figure out what you need and be able to verbalize that to others.
Thank you both for joining us tonight. We're looking forward to a good conversation. So tonight we're going to be talking about self-care. We're going to talk about it from the perspective of mental health, social, emotional, financial health, and what does it look like? What does it look like also now in time of a pandemic, before, after, during, and I'm hoping that you guys can give some tidbits and some things some action items that people could walk away with to take care of themselves right now, as you guys are experts in these areas. And so, I think Erica and I are just here to support this conversation tonight, but I believe that really we want to hear what y'all have to say and see if we can help reach some people and give them some tips to do some things better, differently, enhance what they're already doing. And I just start with the question, like, what is self-care? What does it mean? And what does it look like right now? What does that look like? And you could touch on it from any perspective you would like to, but what is it? What does that mean? What does it mean to you?
I guess I can start. When I think about self-care, I think about, for me, boundaries. Like, how do I have boundaries around my time and my energy, right? Because that's all I have. You can have money, you can have all these things, but your time and your energy is priceless. So for me right now, is around boundaries. And so how do I say no? Because I'm the type of person that I say yes to everything because I want to be helpful. And a lot of us do. We just want to be helpful. But when we say yes to everything, we give everyone else a piece of us. And then what do we have left for ourselves? So for me, I think self-care is just taking a moment or moments to take care of you and figure out what it is that you need. Like, and then when I wake up every morning, I think about, okay, how am I feeling? I do kind of like a mental health check-in, right? Because some of us wake up on the wrong side of the bed sometimes, right? We don't always know why. So I do kind of a check-in to see where I'm at and figure out what I need. And through this pandemic, I've been taking walks, and people are really, I take like a 4-mile walk in the morning. I live in New York, through Central Park. And I have to say, I feel transported to a different place when I'm in the park, right? I'm around all of this nature, and it just gives me a moment to reset and to figure out, okay, how am I going to tackle my day? One thing is, I'm not a parent, but for the parents out there, you're tackling homeschooling, you're tackling so many pieces, taking care of someone else while taking care of yourself. So for me, it just became taking walks, taking a nap. I know it might sound funny to some people, but when you're tired and your body needs to rest, just rest. And it's just about listening to your body. I think that's how when I look at I think about that, just taking care of you and figuring out what you need to do that.
Now, Dr. Johnson Allen, because you run like 45 schools, and so like you run all these schools and do all these wonderful things. And how do you take that moment to yourself? What do you do? What do you do for yourself? And how do you take care?
Paul, that is a very good point. And just what Anisha was saying, right? I'm learning to say no. I have learned that saying no is not a sin. You will not go to hell for saying no. It's okay, right? And that was huge for me to be able to really understand, because you don't want to hurt anyone, you don't want anyone to feel rejected. But then the reality is, if you don't take care of yourself, you can take care of no one else, right? So my hardest issue has been just to say no. And so I've decided to just take some time for myself, pull back. I've learned to turn my phone off at a certain time. It's okay for you to get my voicemail and call someone else. I'm learning that. So, like, to your point, the boundaries have made a significant impact on my self-care. What about you, Stephanie?
When I heard her talk about boundaries, as far as from a financial standpoint, there are a lot of people that are not working. A lot of our people that are not working. Okay. So when you're at home and you have all this time to think, it weighs on you. So when I tell people, don't trade to your internet ordering this stuff that you cannot pay for. You see what I'm saying? We haven't been to restaurants, y'all, in months. Okay. Mostly of us have been cooking. Think about, make a list of how much of money I'm saving because I'm working from home. Think about the fact that you're not paying for gas when you're going back and forth to work. You're in the house. When you think about those type of things and saving money, I did it for myself. And I saved like $1,300 a month just from not eating out, just from not going, well, you know what, let's go meet to eat. No, let's cook at home. We've been doing it. So you're laughing, so you see what I'm saying, because I have spent a lot of money like just doing stuff. But we have some people that's at home and they're bored. So what we gonna do? I don't have to actually go nowhere to get nothing to eat. I can get on DoorDash. I can get on Uber Eats to find something for me to eat. And then guess what? When the bills come and we're like, how am I gonna pay for this stuff? We have to exert some self-control and pick out what do we need and what do we not. And then we take our time and we say, hey, you know what? I need to send her this money. Well, if they ask for $1,000 and you don't pay your rent because you're trying to give it to them and you don't want to say no, I don't want them to think I'm broke. I had this conversation with a client last week, but you're putting yourself in a financial bind, which after a while, it starts to work on your mental health. Because when you don't have money to take care of your finances and you're trying your best to help everybody else, you still have to take care of you. Because if you're not here, then you can't be any assistance to no one else. You open the door for people when it comes to, hey, I got this money and I'm just going to give it out. Or, well, no, I need to save this money. Let's see, can we come to a common ground? Instead of that person always borrowing money from you, let's teach them how to save and not spend every dime that we make, because we never know what might happen in the process. You still have to take care of you in order to take care of others. So boundaries are important, and balancing and checking with your money to see how much you actually have. Let's not spend it all, family. Let's save some.
Well, I hear y'all saying, take care of your money, take care of yourself, and you help yourself, and then you can help others. Think about it. During this pandemic, the pandemic has been real, and there's been issues that have come up, from social, emotional issues, just to racial injustice. There's all kinds of issues that have happened during this pandemic. How do you guys help your clients manage during this time? And talk about some of the issues that you've seen come up for people. What have been those real issues that are coming up?
So I'm a huge advocate for therapy, of course, as a therapist, but I do think that people should have that safe space where they can go and talk about just themselves. As people of color, it feels like sometimes, it's about everyone else. I'm one of 7 children, so let me be clear. So I'm always fighting for attention somewhere. So it's nice to have a place where it's just about me. And so therapists go to therapy too. So I go to therapy. I don't go, but we talk on the phone. But I think that it has just been, I'm sorry, Paul, I think I forgot what your question was. That is so bad. Paul, can you ask me again what you...
So really what I'm trying, that's okay, because you were heading the right direction. What I'm
Absolutely.
want to get at, what are the issues that you've been seeing during this COVID around people with their mental health? And then also, what advice have you guys been giving them? And not just mental health, but their financial health, because there's a ton of people who are out of work. They're their savings, or they don't have any savings, and that's causing mental health issues. And then there's social emotional issues that are going on with people, and all the injustices that we see. And what are some of the issues, that specifics that you guys have seen, and what type of advice are you giving people to deal with those issues? And I give you both a stab at that.
So I've been seeing an increase in anxiety as well as depression. So with the anxiety, a lot of times people are not in a space where they can control things in the way they normally are, right? Because of all the uncertainty, I just tell people, control what you can control, right? So we don't know when COVID is going to be over, right? If you've lost your job, you really can't control when you're going to get a new one. What are the things in your life that you can control? I've definitely seen a lot of my clients, there's an increase in using marijuana, alcohol usage. I was reading an article recently where there's like a 300% increase in that is being delivered to your home. So people are like getting cases of wine delivered to them all the time. People are using more edibles than they ever have. I hear that. They say it's easy to, it helps them sleep more, right? And just kind of feel a little bit more calm. So I've seen a lot of that. I've seen relationships that are not in a good place. Because of all the roles that they're taking on. So people are not used to, being an employee, whatever it is they do, being a partner to someone, being a parent, a sister, an aunt, all of these things at one time from your dining room table. So it's been causing a lot of stress. I've seen a lot of loneliness. So there's a lot of people out here who live alone. And so now that they had to kind of hunker down and isolate themselves from others, it's been very difficult for them. So I've definitely seen a rise in that. And I think I just see that people are in a place where they just don't know what's next. And that is very scary for them. So I think a lot of my sessions are talking about what's next. What are the things that you can look forward to? So it's small things right now, like, can you plan a vacation, right? So just so you can have something to look forward to. I'm telling people, check your vitamin D levels, because the winter is coming, right? Mood boosting foods that are out here to help you kind of with your mood. And so all of these pieces of how are you going to take care of yourself, because we don't know how much longer COVID is going to continue. And I think with a lot of my clients, just dealing with the election is bringing on a lot of anxiety around not knowing what is next for our future as a country. So that has been really scary as well.
What about you, Stevie?
Well, me, I'm frugal. But I tell my clients, yeah, it's me. I'm always thinking about how can I save and not overspend, but have discipline. So because I'm a life coach and I deal with people from a financial standpoint, the first thing I tell them is, hey, write down everything that you have. Make a list. I'm big on lists. And I've been seeing them not making their lists. Four of my clients lost their jobs. So they no longer make the list. They've been overspending. I have one that's getting a divorce. I have one that's losing their house. And it's because they said, well, I didn't have enough money, so I didn't pay it. I had one to file bankruptcy, which I'm not saying bankruptcy is a bad thing, but there are too many other programs before you get to that point. So I try to counsel them to stay positive and not overspend and buy the bare minimum of things that you need. Your kids are in college. I understand that. That's why she was paying for it. Well, guess what? That's why we have all this government money. Let's try to go out and see what you're eligible for, because you really don't know. They don't tell us. And I say us because we as a Black community have been conditioned to say, you know what? You get you a job, you work it, you got insurance, and you have a good time with your money and take care of your family. But let me give you some good stuff for free. When you When you put yourself out there and you weigh yourself thin, like with boundaries again, then you give the opportunity to say, hey, I can do this. But what if you can't? I have 4 clients that no longer can do that. So now your family is not talking to you because they're mad because they said, well, you make all this money. But they were with me because they needed somebody to coach them through what not to spend. We can't go buy a $4,000 bag when we haven't paid our rent. Okay. But what we can do is we can save. We can sit up and say, you know what? This is going to be over soon. It's coming. Get out there and stop looking at TV. Join social groups. Volunteer. You can do that from your living room. And get your mind on something else besides just spending money. Because after a while, you should really have a savings that you can have emergency funds for 6 months. That's what I try to get them to have emergency fund for 6 months, just in case this happens. Like COVID, it's been devastating to us all, but people have lost money and they're still not wrapped around like, hey, I can't do this. So it's a mindset, and we have to think about that before we go out and spend all of this money and we can't pay for it just because we have plastic. And it keeps you.
So let me jump in right there, Stephanie. You said you need 6 months of an emergency fund.
Yes, ma'am.
Tell me specifically what would encompass that emergency situation. Do I count in, of course, I would do my rent or mortgage, car note, etc. What else should I add in there? Should I add in my salon appointment? Should I add in my, on Amazon money that I'm using for that? What constitutes an emergency fund?
What constitutes an emergency fund? I'm so glad you asked. That mortgage, you have to have a roof over your head. Okay, we have to have that. We cannot work without getting there. So we need transportation. If you do not stay in the areas like New York, there's public transportation, but you still use that as well. You add that in there, and you add your utilities. Your hair is not a necessity, it's a want. So we can't add that to it.
Even for Black women, Stephanie?
No, do you see my hair, ma'am? Have you ever seen my hair this long?
I don't want your eyebrows looking like this now.
Stephanie, my hair was
eyebrows looking like this.
Well, let me tell you
but
something.
Those are some of the things we face, right? As Black people, we think what may be a necessity truly may not in some areas.
I called my stylist and said, hey, I'm not going to be able to see you. What do I do? She gave me a list of the products she used on my hair. Keep it up. That's what you have to do. If you wear a short style, like y'all, then you guess what? Go holler at that barber. Let him trim you up on the sides and back here for $10 instead of $75 a week. No.
So let me ask this question then. So y'all know that first round of stimulus came, that $1,200, right? And so we may get another 1,200 at some point in time, maybe not, who knows, but I saw a lot of people, they got that $1,200. The first thing they was doing, they was at Walmart getting TV. And that's how they thought they were taking care of their mental health. Let me go buy this TV, or let me go buy Junebug a pair of Jordans. So you get this $1,200. So I'm gonna ask this to both of y'all. So first, Stephanie, what do you say do with the $1,200 that would keep people sane and keep people right and tight in their pockets? And then Anisha, what would you say as a therapist to do with the $1,200 so they could keep their mindset right? How they gonna keep their mind together? What they need to go get their hair done, nails did, everything did, or do they need to listen to Stephanie? What they need to do for their therapy? So go ahead, Stephanie. Tell us what you say, and then the therapist is gonna tell us what they really need to do for their mindset to keep them right.
Okay, so you want me to light them up and then she gonna tone them down when she come in with her therapy? Okay.
Go ahead. What y'all got?
The $1,200, y'all. $1,200 is just a little bit of something. It's not a lot. Okay, it's enough if you've been out of work You know what I'm saying? Think about it. If you've been out of work all this time and you're behind on your bills, catch it up. But not those bills that calls for hair, nails, shoes, all that stuff. I'm talking about stuff that you're truly behind on. Catch that stuff up. Don't go, if you need food in your house, go buy it. Go buy your food for the month. How about that? Go buy your food for the month. People that are still working like us, then guess what? We should have saved all that. We should have put that money back. It's not, as they used to say, Black Christmas is your income tax, where you take it and you just spend. People will do what they see, y'all. They do what they see. You think about the habits you picked up from your parents, and they have flowed over in your house. They don't know no better. So that's the reason why you have to get better, because you don't want your offspring, your next generation, to feel that way. Because if I'm out of work, I can't make my payments, even with unemployment. We have to think differently, and we think differently, we'll have more. But it's discipline. You don't just get there overnight. How you think I became this way? I mean, I was not that way at all. You know what I'm saying? But I had to realize that I have to live the next day. So now,
and you should give us some therapy. What you say? How you gonna therapeutically spend it?
What I heard was learn behaviors, which is so important, right? The things that you've learned from your family. And maybe that is how they saw, listen, this is how we're supposed to spend money. When we get it, it burn a hole in our pocket, right? But for me, I would tell my clients, and I have to say, a lot of my clients, the type of money that they make, they didn't get a stimulus, right? So we have to have that conversation about what to do with it. But I will say, the first thing I would say is figure out what your needs are. Like, we got to start with the needs before we get to the wants. That's going to be super important. So if the needs are around paying a bill, buying food, do that first. But I will say that we have to take care of a want somewhere in there. Because if I am unhappy, I've been in a house for 3-4 months, I've been alone, feeling depressed, what's going to make me feel better? Because sometimes I need to figure out in the moment, I might need a little bit of instant gratification just to make me feel better, to get me over the hump. So like, if you got 1,200, can you take 100 to get something that will make you feel better? Not the whole 1,200, but take some of it to make you feel better.
She
right?
said 50.
And
she said you only 50. Get 50.
I'm talking 1/12, Stephanie. That's only 1/12. But I will say I saw a lot of quarantine purchases. That's what I was calling them. Because people didn't know how to make themselves feel better in the normal ways that they did, right? You're not going out to brunch. For people who are dating, you're not going out on dates. You're not seeing your family. You're not traveling, right? So what else can I do? And the only thing that you could do was order things. So I did have to pull a lot of people off the ledge because the quarantine purchases was just coming in. Every time I'm on the phone with them, it's like, oh, hold on, and at the door. Well, who's at the door? Oh, that's the UPS guy, right? Because he's delivering something else. And I get it. We didn't know ourselves. Everybody was saying, oh, we have so much more time. But we really didn't. What I noticed was that employers were asking people to work hard because they were home. And so there we go again with the boundaries. It was like, oh, you home, so you can work to 8, 9 o'clock, and that's okay. And so people were having a hard time with, Anisha, I'm not as productive as I normally am. Yeah, because you're anxious and depressed. Of course you can't be productive. And you know, I would see on Instagram, oh, write that book or do this or do that. You always talking about you couldn't do it because you didn't have the time. But mentally, I'm not in a space that I can focus on that, right? I'm trying not to get COVID because I'm thinking about death all the time. I don't think that people really thought about what COVID really was. For a lot of us, every day we were hoping we weren't going to get a phone call from one of our family members. I don't know about you guys, but when I looked at my Facebook feed, there were so many people that I knew were dying. Because as a Black person, we were disproportionately impacted. So if I'm dealing with all of that, Stephanie, you got to cut me some slack and let me do something to make me feel good.
Get all those packages from Amazon if you can't afford to buy their stock. Because their stock right now is to the roof. You're making them rich. Join them. Buy some stock with Amazon. And let them.
Absolutely. Right, but what about this? I get the stock, but what about a little bit of immediate gratification, Stephanie? Like Like I kind of want the new hoodie, the new pair of shoes. I want something.
Well, Stephanie said you can have 50.
Let me do.
You know, she's saying you can have 50. Have a little bit.
Your emergency fund is fine. Then we'll talk about purchases.
Good stuff. Well, go ahead, Anisha.
No, I was just gonna say that a lot of our entertainment fund, like, so I have a fund where, entertainment, dinner, whatever. That was all. I didn't have anywhere to go. So I decided to save what I would usually use for the entertainment money. I did save and I did buy more stocks, Stephanie. So I do get where you're coming from. This was a chance for a lot of people to save if they were still working. But I don't think a lot of us took that time to think about that. Really didn't. We were trying to figure out how do we feel better in whatever ways that was.
And I think you are so right. I know that we're running out of time here, Dr. Miller, but if you don't mind, I just want to make sure that we leave our audience with some key points. And I continue to hear the words anxiety, depression, anxiety. And so I come to you asking, what are the look for signs within a person? Sometimes maybe you don't really know, am I depressed? Am I experiencing anxiety right now? What does that look like? What does that feel like? So if you don't mind, can you just educate us on what are the signs for yourself as an individual, but also when you're looking at others, maybe your family members, maybe your children? What does depression and anxiety look like?
Well, I would say the things that you should look at if you think that someone needs help, right? If you see any changes in like your eating habits, right? Sleeping habits, that's one thing. Especially with depression, if you are all of a sudden very irritable, very agitated, that can be a sign of depression. If it's really hard for you to hold on to relationships, maybe you're withdrawing and you're kind of not as social as you used to be, that's something to look at. If you're with someone who is overthinking a lot and they're always kind of in their head, that might be a sign of anxiety. Someone who is worrying a lot, catastrophizing, always looking at worst case scenarios all the time. And for depression, it can be someone who's actually thinking about death as well. That can be, and someone who's just kind of sleeping all day. And with depression, sometimes you can't even, like, our normal functioning is no longer there. Right? Like showering, just like kind of the simple things, brushing your teeth, people can't even kind of do those things. So I think that when you also see in a family member where they're unable to kind of hold on to social connections, that's a thing. Because a lot of times when people get anxious or really depressed, they withdraw. So I think that is a huge one that you want to pay attention to someone withdrawing. And if you see that happening right now, reach out. I think this is a time to really stay connected. And that is something that you can do as a form of self-care, right? Like find your community. They say it takes a village to raise a child. I think it takes a community to raise an adult. So figure out where your community is, figure out where your support is, and don't be afraid to ask for help. I think that's the biggest thing. I think for a lot of us, asking for help is like a sign of weakness. And I really want people to think more about that and look at it as a sign of strength. That I know that I need more than I can give myself, asking for that help. So I think that that's super important right now in this time to ask for help.
And Stevie, thank you, Anisha. Stevie, so give us 5 tips for them to walk away with financially. How whether they is about how do they start saving? What do they need to do to get themselves right? Can you give me 5? If you give me more, that's okay. Give me 5.
I'll give you 5. The first thing is to assess your actual income, to see how much you have that you can save. If it's $5, you'd be surprised how far that $5 would go. People give to you, whatever they give to you, put it up. Take some of it, save it, and put the rest up. The third thing I would say is stay away from social networks that require you to spend money, or hey, you can have this for $1, but your shipping is $30. Why would we do that? Go ahead and read. Find a good book to read. Is To Manage My Money. Is a very good book. It's by Joyce Holiday. And it tells you how to manage your money, how to set boundaries for yourself, and to not be so anxious to every time you get a dollar, you have to spend it. Number 4, get a buddy to hold you accountable. Have somebody that you can hold each other accountable for it. You know what I'm saying? And 5, you can just say, you know what? I've had enough. Let me see who I can find, because my services are free. I do it for free. But by me doing it for free, so many people recognize me to do other stuff. They're gonna say, hey, holler at her. And it opens more doors for me, because I want people to be financially sound and stable, because at one while I wasn't. And that will help you with your mental health as well.
I thought you was about to say to do other sugar, honey, iced tea. I was like, oh, she about to curse, y'all. She about to curse. But no, I think we thank you guys. I thank you, Erica. Thanks you. We thank you for coming on.
Yes,
audience, we just, for everybody that's watching, I think really, if you walk away with anything, we want you to walk away with that you have to recognize that you have to take care of yourself. Self-care is self-love, and you got to love yourself before you can love anybody else. And so you have to take care of yourself mentally. As Black people, we cannot be afraid to reach out for help, for support. We got to be able to do that, men and women. Talk to somebody. There's a lot of good people out there who can help and support. Like Ednisha has said, and if you go to her website, The Black Woman Be Whole, I know that they have resources and other things that they talk about. So if you're looking for that help and support, Stephanie, thank you for the financial advice. I think it's so crucial that you don't want to walk away from this pandemic more broke than you need to be. Let's try to save, let's try to encourage, let's try to invest, let's try to create Black wealth. Everything is driven by the dollar. And, that doesn't mean you need to be driven by the dollar. You need to drive the dollar. And so just thinking about, as people, there's so much that we have going for us, and we just have to work towards being mentally strong, form new habits, new rituals and routines, and do what it takes to be successful. But you can't do any of that if you don't take care of yourself. So we encourage you all to take care of yourself. We want people to tune in next week. Go to YouTube, Vulnerable Voices, click subscribe. We're broadcasting live on Facebook, on Twitter. And we want you all to tune in with us next week. Next week, I believe we're going to the new modern day slavery. So we're going to talk about that. We're not even going to tell y'all what that's about until get here next week. So modern day slavery, and come check us out. We're going to have another good episode with a couple great guests as well. I don't know if they could top these 2 wonderful ladies who are with us tonight, but we're going to do our best. And we appreciate you guys for watching. Have a good week, and we will see you next week. See you for Woke Wednesdays. Thank you all. God bless you. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Peace.